Yeah, so this is a unit I'm working on right now, headed back there tomorrow morning actually. It's a beautiful unit. It's 100% shovel ground, which is pretty unusual. And yeah, there are a couple steep phases that I've been working with, but nothing serious. It's just a beautiful unit and beautiful wood. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, really. It's basically, on the foothills of Mount St. Helens. It's about 2,200 feet, so you can see we're getting snow. There might be snow there tomorrow morning, too. So far, nothing too serious, but, it's high enough we'll get it when it's coming. Yeah, so this was replanted after the eruption, which is kind of cool. The eruption was 1980, and a couple of years to log it and prep the site and whatnot, and then get her planted. So, it's just beautiful wood. The easy ground on this, and most of it is, the easy ground was cut to length thinned, probably 20 years ago or so, something like that. And they did a nice job, and the trees really responded to it. And really put on growth. So that, on the good ground, the stocking's down, but the size is up significantly. There's a lot of max cut wood. It's just absolutely perfect bunch of wood, excellent production. It's interesting. I was just talking with my boss last night about it, and I think it's going to run probably 35 to 40 to the acre. I really do. It's got pretty good height. It's not real tall, and there are places that are kind of wet, and that kind of slowed the wood down a little bit. But it's got good height. Matt moved in Friday night and was able to process a little bit. And he said the first stick he ran, he got 236s out of it. So that's nice. That's good wood, yeah, so it's just a pleasure. It is such a pleasure to cut good wood. And it's kind of interesting. I was working on this farm and starting in '97, and so whatever, that was 17 years, I guess, after the eruption. And at that point, on the ground, you could scratch it with your boot, and there'd be a layer of duff, and then there'd be like 2 inches, depending on where you were, there'd be like a 2-inch layer of white ash. And from what I understand, that's pretty, it's full of nutrients. Of course, I'm no soil biologist, but that's what I had heard. So I was kind of interested to get back, on this ground and see. And it's interesting. In some places, if the soil happens to get kind of turned up, you can see it's got kind of a grayish tone, but there's not that layer of white anymore like I remember. And I guess, it's been 42 years now since then, so I'm thinking it's just incorporated into the matrix of the soil itself. But, yeah, this was just beautiful cutting. The only kind of, drawback, I guess, is that and you could hardly call it that. It's very deep soil. That topsoil layer is like, I'd say it runs 2 feet or so in general. And that's just really deep, rich, good soil, So it didn't take much slope to have that be an issue. Fortunately, there's a lot of, fortunately or unfortunately, there's a lot of old growth, we call it buckskins, on the ground. And that's this stem here. That's pretty typical. That you can see I'm kind of working that to stay under it. That's max cut. That's a nice stick. And those are pretty regular. that one to the pile. Yeah, but there's a lot of old wood on the ground, and so that I have to work around it. I try to put that stuff in lead, and so I don't break it on the next pass, and you know, sometimes that stuff can be really big, and sometimes it's still sound as a button, you know. So, but other times it's just too big and too heavy to move. I had another one down in the lower block on this patch that it was 6 feet through and probably over 100 feet long in the ground, and it ran, you know, perpendicular to my lead, and I gave it a little nudge with the head, but there was just nothing going. You know, they get sunk into the ground, and I mean, that tree probably weighs 50 tons or something like that to begin with. And so there was no moving it and no cutting it, and so I had to fall around that, you know, kind of angle the stuff around it so I didn't bust it up. It's kind of funny, years ago I was laying a unit out up north on the Vale farm, and I ran across a stick on the ground that was it was over 8 feet through, and again it was like 100 feet long or better, and that was spiral grown, and these big trees, you can see it on the outside, like the grain just goes around in a spiral, and so that was left because it was not, you know, it obviously wouldn't, you know, turn like in 4 feet, you know, almost, you know, half 180 degrees, if that makes sense. So they left it, but, you know, I was running a straight line of compass bearing, and I had to go right over that thing, and I had a hell of a time climbing up that, you know, because the bark was all gone, and it was standing by itself, and nothing to really grab a hold of it. You know, I mean, it's 8 feet through, you know, it's pretty impressive, you know. Yeah, so this has just been a good unit. I've gotten hellish production, and had a lot of fun doing it. There are a couple steep pitches I fought pretty hard, and I think there actually was so far there's been a handful of trees below one road. It was a junction, and they pushed out quite a lot of material to make it work, and so it was, you know, that real deep rich soil below that was quite steep, plus the, you know, the loose spoils from, you know, creating that approach. So I had to leave a few. I have to get dumped by hand. And there may be I've got one little strip left to go still. I think probably, you know, a couple days cutting. And some of that is steep as well. I noticed there are a couple little seeps that have alder on them. And being so steep, I don't believe I'll get on them. I'll give it a shot. You know, it's alder, so I can chunk it up if I need to. You know, the smaller stuff. Yeah, this one is interesting too, because, and I think there'll be some scenes of it later, but the unit extended into a, you know, wet area that was all alder, and they were very concerned about the soil, with good reason. So they just told me to cut what was, you know, was good, you know, good soil, and not push that pipeline, which was very distinct. I mean, it just went from fir to 100% alder. So I got the big alder on the edge, and that was it. Yeah, it's a bunch of candy for you here off of Mount St. Helens. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.